Good morning, it's Michelle with Books Cause Insomnia, and this is my dog Olive's leg. She's taking a nap. I don't want to bug her, but I will show you what she looks like in case you want to see her little snuggling face. I'm sitting here drinking my coffee out of my adorable Mandalorian mug. And I'm going to be doing a reading vlog because I decided as my book of the month to pick one of the books that I had talked to you about in my anticipated reads video. I selected Hester, this one with the beautiful cover. Isn't that pretty? Look at that. Oh, it looks like embroidered. I think it's so pretty. I mean, this is the kind of book that even if I don't like it, I'd almost want to keep it and put it in my library sitting like this because it's so pretty. It actually isn't a bad idea because on the top of my bookcase, the main bookcase, I have some roses that Brad had given me and they're dried. And this next to that would look really stunning, I think. So I might do that. I've never read the Scarlet Letter, which is very strange because I remember I was a ballet dancer, and in, I want to say 9th or 10th grade, I was over at one of the dancers' houses. And I was talking to her mom, and we were having this wonderful discussion about being somebody that loves to read. And I used to really like talking to her mom. And she was just very mentally stimulating. For some reason, I was at their house for a while. We had to wait for some kind of rehearsal that had been prolonged or something. Or maybe there was a performance that we had to wait for. And my friend had a bunch of homework she had to do. So I wasn't able to hang out with her. So her mom gave me her copy of The Scarlet Letter to read. And I sat there for, I don't know, an hour or two reading it. And I got really into it. And it was her copy. So obviously I didn't take it with me when I left. And then all these years, I've never thought to pick it up and read it. It doesn't make sense as much as I enjoyed it. I did start reading it. I'm a few pages in. And I'm really liking the writing of it. And I'm just going to do this video with spoilers, or at least this book, because I'm assuming most of you have probably read it. I think I'm the only person left that hasn't read it, right? So I'm reading the introduction letter, and there's already part of it that just really stood out to me. In this book, in my copy, it's page 5. Over the entrance hovers an enormous specimen of the American eagle, with outspread wings, a shield before her breast, and, if I recollect all right, a bunch of intermingled thunderbolts and barbed arrows with each claw. With the customary infirmity of temper that characterizes this unhappy fowl, she appears by the fierceness of her beak and eye, and the general truculency of her attitude, to threaten mischief to the inoffensive community, and especially to warn all citizens carefully of their safety against intruding on the premises which she overshadows with her wings. Nevertheless, vixenly as she looks, many people are seeking at this very moment to shelter themselves under the wing of the federal eagle, imagining, I presume, that her bosom has all the softness and snugness of an eider-down pillow. But she has no great tenderness, even in her best of moods, and sooner or later, oftener soon than late, is apt to fling off her nestlings with a scratch of her claw, a dab of her beak, or a rankling wound from her barbed arrows. What beautiful writing, though. I'm just so in love with the writing of this. It's so pretty. And yes, I have to keep stopping and thinking about what the author is saying, because sometimes it's not worded in a way that I'm familiar with. But it's so pretty. I really love it. I almost feel like this will be a 5-star read, even if I don't like the story, just because of the writing. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Have you read this book, and did you love it? Did you love the writing? I would love to hear if you felt that way as well. This is the inside of the book. And this is a World Cloud Classic edition, and I really love these books. I have a Christmas Carol, I think it is, in this, and I think I have Emma. Is that it? But I really like them. I like the way they look. I like the way that they feel good in my hand. I like that they don't stain too easily. I love that they're the perfect size. I really like them. And I'm not that far in at all. 10 pages in. I think I'm going to love this book. I think it's going to be one of my favorite books. I just have a feeling. Wouldn't it be great? I would love to love this book that much. To be that invested in a book. I am on chapter 6, and I'm really enjoying it. I love the beautiful writing. To me, it almost feels like a study on communities and how what is and isn't acceptable in that community, whatever the rules of that community are, whatever the morals are, can really affect those living there, especially if they don't follow those rules, right? So you've got Hester. She will not tell anyone who the father of this baby is, and not even her actual husband, which nobody knows that's her husband, which is all these secrets, right? It's affecting her life so much that she won't just say who the father is, or that she even slept with somebody other than her husband to begin with. So now her daughter is having to deal with the consequences of her actions. And so it's kind of interesting to think about that, how we can affect other people so much with what we do, and how especially children, or really children, parents, siblings, it can really affect you. Like if your parent killed somebody and went to prison for it, it would probably affect the rest of your life too. And I wonder how often people think about how much what they do might affect other people. Anyway, this book, I'm just loving it. I will check back in with you soon. I'm sitting outside of my cable company. I need to turn in some old boxes, and there's quite the line already, and they haven't even opened yet. It feels like it might be like the DMV, except I've got a boot on and I can't just stand for a long time, so we'll see what happens. Good morning. It's now Saturday, and how far am I into this book? I'm on chapter 11, and I'm on page 127. So, as you can see, I'm about halfway through. Hester is having some issues with her daughter Pearl. She's kind of difficult, and she's not like other kids, which, I mean, of course she's not like other kids. She wouldn't be like other kids. It's so shunned by society when a child doesn't have a father and that father isn't a woman's husband. I mean, back then it was you didn't have sex until you were married, and you only had children with your spouse. You did not cheat. In fact, I think you could get killed for that back then, right? Hester's decisions are really affecting Pearl's life, and she gets made fun of a lot and taunted a lot, and she gets things thrown at her, and Hester gets that too, but Hester's the one that did the crime, so to speak. So it's very interesting. Now she has gone over to a minister's house, and they were talking about taking Pearl from her and raising her correctly. And so far they haven't done it, but I'm wondering if that'll happen. I am really fascinated with the characters and their relationships. The book is going more in depth now into Roger Chillingworth. Or is it Chillingworth or Chilling? Roger Chillingworth. And now he's actually Hester's real husband, but nobody knows that. He has taken a fake name now that he's back. So because of the kinds of medicine that he has learned, now he's just calling himself a doctor. He didn't go to medical school or anything. You know, it's kind of like an apothecary kind of doctor, which I think was pretty common back then. A lot of people are kind of questioning whether he's into some kind of dark magic or witchcraft or that kind of thing. If he's into the occult. And this minister is also, now after living with him for years and befriending him, now he's starting to get uncomfortable and wonder the same thing. But as the book is going deeper, and it's going deeper into the minister, I'm starting to think that he's the dad of Pearl. And if he is, it makes sense why she wouldn't tell anybody who the father was. And it kind of adds to how messed up this friendship that he and Roger have with each other. So it's pretty interesting reading about the lies and the deceit and the judgment that occurred back then, and how not much has changed in that way. I guess people are just people, and as much as we try to move forward as a people and to grow and change, in some ways we just stay the same. I just finished the Scarlett letter. I'm so tired. I gotta go to bed. But it took me a while to read it, just maybe the last 50 pages, because I started the Hello Reads readathon and had to put the book on hold. But after reading the first 2 books of Hello Reads, I decided I'm just going to finish this before I start the next book. My takeaway would be, we're all sinners, and really, are any of us qualified, or do we have the power to say whose sins are worse than other people's? I mean, okay, I get there's certain things that are really egregious, like murder or something, but who are we to say or to judge other people's sins when we're sinning too, right? This book was about so many things. Obviously, sin, forgiveness, guilt, being an outcast. And it was so dramatic. It was about humanity and the human condition. I found Hester's strength very inspiring. Very inspiring. And I felt a connection to her because of her strength. I think about the kind of love it would take to want to protect someone the way she did her baby daddy, you know. And that's the thing, she really did love him, and to think about how painful that would be to have to keep it a secret, to not be able to tell anyone, to see him about the town and have to act like she doesn't feel the way she does. And then to have a child that is understandably angry with her and difficult to raise at times. I mean, that might be the price to pay, right, for such a sin. But once again, who are we to judge, right? But yeah, I guess she really did get her karma, if you want to call it that. And I think a lot of the characters in the book got their karma, which was kind of fascinating as well. I love this book, you guys. 5 stars. I thought it was so good, and I loved listening to the audio version and reading the book at the same time. It was wonderful to be able to do the dishes while listening to the book, but also lay in bed and read it, go back and rewind it, or find my spot and go back to parts that I wanted to underline or notate. I think this book was written so beautifully, and I can see why a lot of people might not care for the writing. It's a very traditional writing style that we're not familiar with anymore. This book was written so long ago, and I'll admit I had to pick up my dictionary quite a few times. There were words like gourmandism and lucubration and pedant, truculency, all kinds of words. I didn't know what they meant, but now I do. So I looked at it as something fun, a way to grow my vocabulary and have fun with it. But I could see, especially if you're wanting to just sit back and enjoy a book and not really have to think about, wait, what did that mean? I could see how that might irritate some people. The other thing is the author has sentences that tend to be what I would consider a paragraph long. And that can be a little bit tedious to read at times. I found myself probably 5 or 6 times having to start a sentence over to figure out what was being said. And I could see how that would be frustrating for people. But I just loved it so much. And it left a mark on my heart. Good morning. It's Michelle and Olive. It's been a couple weeks since we talked to you about the Scarlett letter, and I had some other things I had to read in between for the Hello reads, and yeah, I had a couple arcs that I had to read by certain dates and that kind of stuff. So now I'm finally back and I'm reading Hester. Sorry it's naked. I took the cover off. I always do that when I read hardback books to keep the cover nice. Olive went downstairs, so she heard, I think, somebody at the door, so she's down there now. This book, it's not what I was expecting. I thought this book was about what happened to Hester after the Scarlett letter ended, and it's actually not about that. It's about something I think maybe is a little better. It's about a woman named Isabel, who, I don't know if it's historically accurate or not, but Isabel, in this book anyway, is the one that inspired the Scarlett letter. She's meeting Nathaniel Hawthorne, and he's getting the idea for this book upon meeting her. The writing is very beautiful. I would say the writing is like lace. it's lacy. And what I mean by that, it's very delicate and airy and beautiful. Isabel is from Scotland, and she has an ancestor from, I think it was 100 or 200 years before, also named Isabel, that was accused of being a witch and killed for it. Now, this ancestor had red hair. Apparently, red hair is thought to have been a witchcraft thing back then. So she has red hair, and she's displaying certain things that society thinks are of the craft. And so I'm not sure what's going. I'm on about page 100, so I'm not really sure what's going to happen. I'm not going to tell you either in case you want to read the book. But she has synesthesia. Synesthesia. And it says, synesthesia is a unique sensory phenomenon that affects less than 10% of the world's population. So people with synesthesia have joined perception. They experience multiple sensory responses when only one sense has been stimulated. The two types that Isabel has are grammacolor synesthesia, in which letters are associated with colors, and chromesthesia, in which sound evokes experiences of color, shape, and texture. Now, synesthesia at the time was thought of as being a sign that someone was a witch. There's an excerpt in here that I think really beautifully describes synesthesia. I lived in a world of magic and color then. My mother's voice a sapphire stream flecked with emeralds. My father's a soft caramel. In summer, I ran barefoot through the valleys with my cousins and kin and saw their voices rise up in vibrant wisps of yellow and gold. The wind was sometimes fierce pink, and the sound of the waterfall on rocks glistened silver. That sounds like a very beautiful way to think. That is where the Scarlet letter comes from. She associates the letter A with red. So far, she has moved to America with her husband. Her husband also left, just like in the book. Obviously, there's certain things that are different. She is a seamstress, and she does embroidery. And she experiences a lot of pushback for being Scottish. Apparently, the people that are, I guess you would say, Mayflower descendants, don't like people that are newly in America at this point. They like, I guess, what you would call old blood. So I found that very interesting, that she's experiencing so much pushback and hate from people just because of that. The book talks about how Native Americans are treated. It talks about slavery. It talks about how Scottish and Irish people were treated when they moved here. It's pretty interesting. I think it's another thought-provoking book. Every book almost this month, not every book, but almost every book, has been very thought-provoking. It's like my theme right now. Good morning. I finished Hester this morning, and I'm about to do the dishes. I thought I'd just give you an update. My mom's been in town, so I haven't been reading as much or vlogging as much, so I'm sorry if I didn't talk as much about Hester as I did the Scarlet letter. But I thought that Hester was really good. The author did a lot of homework on Nathaniel Hawthorne and his life, and apparently every book that he wrote was inspired by a different part of his life or a different time in his life, except for the Scarlet letter. It was never revealed whether that was from a time in his life or not. And so the author of Hester decided to create a story based on some people that she thinks might be something that led to the Scarlett letter being written. And I thought it was so good. She definitely did a lot of research. It was so fun to step back in time and imagine what it would have been like to live in that time. I like that she talked about the Salem witch trials. I liked that she addressed slavery, and there was people that had been slaves or people that were trying to escape it, and then also people that had always been free. And I liked that she also addressed feminism and what we sometimes have to do to survive or to stick up for ourselves. I thought it was really good. It was very beautiful. It felt kind of mystical in some ways. So I give this one 5 stars also. There were a few times where I felt a little bit confused about different things in there, but by the end of the book, I figured out what she meant. So I definitely recommend both books. I think it would be fun for anybody to read them back to back like that. I do think it'd be a good idea to read the Scarlett Letter first and then read Hester. You could probably read Hester by itself if you wanted. The writing styles are very different. They're both very beautifully written, but very different styles. Hester, I think, is easier to read too. And that's it for this vlog. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or night. Happy reading. And let me know if you've read either of these books or you want to read them. All right, bye.